Today we have a crazy story of a bully's comments about someone's mom immediately turning traumatizing. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, I guess I don't love animals enough? I've been a veterinary assistant for 3 years now, and I'll be starting veterinary school in the fall. When people find out you work in veterinary medicine, you know the conversation is going to go one of about 2 ways. One, they're going to tell you all about their pet and show you pictures. I love this one. Or 2, they're going to say the thing. Here's how that conversation goes. Person I'm meeting for the first time in a social setting says, "So what do you do for work?" I say, "I'm a vet assistant and I'm starting vet school soon. It's my dream." The person for some reason says, "Oh, I wanted to be a vet when I was a kid, but I could never be a vet. I love animals too much to euthanize them." What a slap in the face. Don't get me wrong, I know what they're trying to say, but what they imply with that statement is just rude. If the person is nice and I can tell they mean well, I just say something along the lines of, "Well, every euthanasia is tough, and I don't think I'll ever get to the point in my career where it doesn't affect me, but sometimes it really is the best option." If I'm sensing bad vibes from this person though, I take a 2-pronged approach. Step 1, tell them, "Oh yeah, euthanasia sucks. But what really gets me is the abuse and neglect that I see firsthand." And then I launch into a story that is so awful that it still makes me nauseous to think about it. I'll spare Reddit the details there. Step 2, once I've decided they're sufficiently traumatized, I ask them if they want to come volunteer with me at the animal shelter. Anyone can do it, and it's just so heartwarming to enrich shelter animals' lives and see them go to good homes. They usually say no. This approach definitely doesn't make me any friends, but hey, neither does implying that vets don't love animals. Also, I really don't want to talk about the hardest part of my job when I'm just trying to have a fun night out. Edit, thank you all for the kind comments, made my day. For everyone that's commenting about their pets that have been euthanized, my heart goes out to you all and your fur babies. I hope happy memories visit your thoughts more often than grief does. Yeah, what a kind of sad way to boil down the career of a veterinarian. And the thing is, if you wanted to, you could apply that pessimistic boiling down of a career to just about any career you can think of. "Oh, I always wanted to be a construction worker, but I've heard of horror stories of on-site accidents. I always wanted to work at the circus until I heard about what happened to Siegfried and Roy." Colorado and New Jersey commented on the post saying, "I think it's often the most compassionate thing you can do for animals, and imagine the personal cost is high every time. It's heroic." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy, traumatizing revenge stories, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is Americans Are So Stupid. I want to preface this by saying that I loved my time in the UK, and I'm not bitter about any of it. This is actually a story I find quite funny and still think about when I reflect on my time as an American living in the United Kingdom. I'm from Alaska, but went to university in the UK. It was during the Bush administration, and I'm not going to lie, it was tiring having people hate 18-year-old me because of United States politics. I was the only foreigner in my classes. In class one day, we were discussing globalization as it related to the material, and I can't remember how it got brought up, but one of my classmates says, "Well, all Americans are so stupid, they think that Scotland is a state in England." I politely raised my hand to offer a rebuttal, and my professor smirked like he knew it was going to be good and called on me. I turned to my classmate and said, "Have you traveled to the US?" The classmate says, "Yes." I say, "Where?" They reply, "Orlando." I say, "Okay, how many times?" The classmate says, "Twice for about 2 weeks each." I ask the classmate, "How many Americans would you say you had an actual conversation with during your time on vacation? Roughly." The classmate replied, "Probably around a dozen." I say, "Okay, I have lived in the UK totaling 2 years now, so it is safe to say I intimately know more British people than you do Americans, yes?" The classmate says, "Sure." I say, "Great. Do you know how many times I have heard, 'Alaska, that's in Canada, right?' from people in this country? So let's make a deal. How about you not judge my entire country based on 12 idiots you met on vacation in Florida, and I won't judge yours by the significantly more uninformed people I've met while living here. Our professor bent over laughing, and the whole class looked at me in silence before the professor moved on to our next prompt. Added, one of the things I got a lot was people trying to stump me on European geography, which I knew well. I mean, I had wanted to move there for school since I was a child, so I was familiar. And after I answered their question correctly, I would say, okay, now you tell me where Kansas is. The state of Alaska alone is 7 times the size of the UK and is 1/6 the size of the entire continent of Europe. The scope and mass of the US is lost on so many people over there. Edit number 2, to all of the British people in the comments who have big feelings about this post, this was not a story about how Americans aren't dumb or how British people are dumb. It was a commentary on how, in my experience, British people expect Americans to be intimately familiar with European geography or territory, or they're dumb, but those same British people shouldn't be expected to know anything about American geography. The USA being huge is relevant because we spend most of our education learning about American geography, and many people in the US still struggle to know where things are in their own country because of how vast it is. Expecting those same people to be familiar with European geography or they're dumb just isn't based in reality. I think it's good and it's normal to have a general awareness of where most things, for the most part, are. Growing up, there's been at least 2 times separately where we were taught exactly where every state was. And even after all of these years, if you put a blank United States map in front of me and told me to list the name of every single one, I feel like I could probably get you like 40 out of 50. I've only been to like a handful of states, so hopefully that doesn't mean I'm dumb if I wasn't able to tell you where exactly Czechia is. Krieg Sochi commented, Texans get mad when you let them know you could split Alaska in half and make Texas the 3rd largest state. I used to live in Homer. Opie replied, I've done that before. Alaska's covered with I'll mess with Texas bumper stickers. Absims12 commented, to be honest, I think a lot of people just generally don't know their geography. I know people who think Indonesia is in, wait for it, India. Our next story is My Sweet Revenge. Okay, this is meant to be a funny story. Moral of the story is, don't be surprised when the prank goes wrong. Disclaimer, all persons mentioned are very close friends and remain so to this day. No participants, property, or innocent bystanders were harmed or offended in any way, and all comments made in furtherance of the prank were lies stated expressly for comedic purposes. These events took place in the late 20th century, the mid-90s, when pranking a friend wasn't the equivalent of an act of terror. If you're triggered by jokes about sensitive subjects, this isn't the story for you. My 51-year-old female, lifelong best friend, 52-year-old male, loved to make people laugh. Still does. And the boys of the group were always trying to play low-key, embarrassing pranks on each other for a laugh. For example, a group trip to the grocery store could result in an improvised game of catch with a roll of paper towels. Tom might call out to Tim and tell him to go long, and Tim would dutifully lope down the aisle, both hands ready for the catch. The QB aims and throws the roll of paper towels in a graceful curving arc right into Tim's grasp. Me? I know what's coming, and I'm trying not to roll my eyes while laughing at their antics. So, of course, Tom signals to Tim to throw it back, which he does, only for Tom to turn away as soon as the ball is in the air and pretend he's looking at something on the shelf as the paper towels crash into a shelf and fall to the floor. At which point, everyone turns to look, and Tom looks at Tim with an expression of confusion on his face. Bro, what are you doing? And then apologizes to anyone in the vicinity as he picks up the paper towels. Like he doesn't know why this guy would do such a thing. And Tim is over there trying to act all nonchalant like nobody thinks he's crazy. Okay, so I got my opportunity for revenge one afternoon at some fast food place. It was mostly empty, but it was me, Tom, and a couple other friends. One ongoing prank was, completely out of the blue, very loudly say something that would be embarrassing to the target. Once, it was standing at the cash register at the video store paying a late fee, and Tim loudly said something like, "You were late returning the bonfire in her panties?" in front of everyone behind us in line. Usually people laughed because it was so over the top that it was obviously a joke. So on this occasion, we're about to sit down to a late lunch, having a normal conversation, and all of a sudden, Tom slammed his tray down and said something like, "Jane, don't make a scene," really sternly, and loud enough to get the attention of anybody nearby and cause a brief moment of silent stares. He got me with that one a few times, but I wised up and figured out I had to get back fast and hard. No mercy if I wanted to get one over on him. So this time, I instantly flinched, threw my hands up defensively and cried, "Please don't hit me!" Tom almost died of mortification, and right away I straightened up and laughed, and then I had to comfort him for the trauma. And he never ever tried that one again, but he never stopped making me laugh. ETA, pranks can be great, a lot of fun, but not if someone could get hurt, not if someone else has to clean up for you, and not if it's going to make someone in your group uncomfortable. Having fun, having a good laugh, a lot of good can come from it. But fun at someone else's expense is not funny, not ever. I realize that some people like slapstick comedy. The famous Johnny Knoxville MTV series was very popular, but I watched a couple of segments and that was enough. I just don't find humor in people getting hurt or hurting themselves. The whole concept of that MTV show was not funny to me at all. It was a showcase of highly dysfunctional attention-seeking behavior, and the fact that it was so popular disturbed me. I thought it was an indicator of a troubled society. Please know your audience, know your target, and make sure your goal is to laugh with someone, not at someone. I don't know if I fully understand where the whole MTV tangent came into play, but I have to admit I am a pretty big fan of that series. But there are more than a fair share of things that happen on that show that just are not very cool looking back on it. Like one of the first things was swallowing and regurgitating a goldfish, or one where Bam randomly just starts beating the crap out of his dad because that's somehow supposed to be funny. Even in Family Guy, they recreated the scene with Stewie beating up Peter. Cheese Girl 72 commented, "In college, very early 90s, my boyfriend and I were at the grocery store walking around late at night, and I stopped him and kissed him as we stood in the aisle. He pranked me hard though when he dropped his arms, took a step backward, put a shocked look on his face and said loudly, 'Mom told you not to kiss me like that anymore,' implying we were siblings rather than a couple. I'm sure I turned about 4 shades of red as people turned to look at the scene he created. We laugh about it still." Our next story is what I used to do to people that asked me about kids. I'm too old for this now, but when I was in my 30s, freaking every stranger felt the need to ask me about when my husband and I were starting a family. Seriously, I went to a plant nursery one day and the lady that was helping me reminded me that my biological clock was ticking, and I got real sick of strangers all up in my business. So I came up with a plan. From then on, every time someone asked about it, I would think about my pets aging and the fact that I would lose them one day and start crying. Then I would whisper, "Excuse me," and run away. They would assume we were trying and had a loss or something and leave me alone, and more to the point, they would think about why they shouldn't ask questions like that. You don't know what someone is going through. The look of shock on the lady's face the first time I did it was so good. Just standing there with her mouth hanging open and her hand up to her face. I was at work, so I ran to the bathroom and came back 5 minutes later. From my mid-30s until around 40, I did this to maybe 50 people, 50 strangers. Anyone who knew me knew I never wanted kids. These kinds of stories have been kind of a common reoccurrence on the subreddit. I think I might have mentioned it before, but it just kind of goes to show that, hey, where are your kids? Or, hey, are you thinking about having any kids? You're not a spring chicken anymore, is kind of like up there with asking somebody whether or not they're pregnant. You just probably shouldn't unless that topic is broached by that person. Chex Mix Chexy commented, "I just tell people I'm sterile. The fact that I did it voluntarily never seems to come up in the conversation." Chuck It By replied, "My friend would tear up and say, 'I can't bear children,' complete with a quivering lip. She meant she couldn't stand them, but others definitely took that she was unable to carry to term." Our next story is crying just for attention. When I was a kid, my older sister, she was 7 at the time, took a nasty fall into a ravine near our house while we were waiting for our school bus. For days afterward, she kept crying and complaining about her arm hurting. My mom? She didn't believe her. She brushed it off, saying my sister was just seeking attention. Weeks went by, and my sister kept saying her arm hurt. It wasn't until nearly a month later that my grandparents decided enough was enough and took her to the hospital. The doctor discovered that her arm had been fractured the entire time and had healed incorrectly. They actually had to refracture her arm so it could heal properly. She ended up with her arm in a cast for 4 to 6 weeks. My grandparents had to sit my mom down and give her a reality check. Kids don't complain for weeks on end just for attention. I'm not sure what my mom said after that, but I'm guessing she was traumatized back. Edit. In fact, to be honest, I don't think she was traumatized despite everything. She was never concerned about taking care of us, even after that event. Edit 2. I'm sorry for having reminded you of bad memories. I'm touched by all your comments. Besides, we live in Canada, so there was no monetary reason. Oddly enough, this story kind of makes me think about how in the recent year or so, there was this ad on TV for some cat food, and there's a mom just chilling on the couch with a cat perched on their shoulder, and their kid yells, "Mom, I fell!" And the mom yells back, "Okay, there's bandages in the cabinet." The kid yells back, "I'm bleeding." The mom just lovingly looks at the cat and says, "Well, grab two." I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, but what a weird commercial to put out there for your brand. How would you be swayed to buy that product? Scary Drawer 3515 commented, "I stepped on something at the neighbor's house when I was 7-ish. It looked like I had just stepped on a staple but hurt like heck. So I walked on my tiptoes and refused to put weight on it. My mom would yell at me and say to quit pretending. This went on for about a week when she finally was fed up with me, so she took me in the yard so she could have a good look and discovered a large piece of glass in my foot. I ended up getting blood poisoning with a red streak going up my leg to my thigh." Our next story is, someone tried to stop me from using the women's bathroom because they mistook me for a guy. This happened when I finally had the nerve to try a pixie cut hairstyle. I was really happy about it because it felt like me. I will admit that when I shop for clothes, I don't care for gender norms. For example, I bought a man's Hawaiian shirt because it felt breezy to me and I really liked its fabric. So, on to the story. I was in the mall with my then boyfriend and went straight for the women's bathroom, as usual. There was no one there except for a woman putting on makeup. I went inside and was almost close to one of the stalls when said lady quickly approached me with makeup tools still in hand and said, "Isn't this comfort room for women only?" And I was confused, yeah, because there's obviously a big sign out there. But then I realized she was staring intently at my chest as if trying to determine if I'm really a girl or some guy entering a women's bathroom. And I don't really understand why she would think of the latter because I was wearing short shorts with leggings. Sure, I was wearing the breezy men's Hawaiian shirt, but it was unbuttoned and loose to reveal a tight black tank top underneath. That's definitely feminine. The whole situation felt so ridiculous to me that I made eye contact, pointed in the direction of my shorts with both hands, and casually asked, "Wanna check? If she's gonna make this weird, I'm gonna make it weirder. Wanna enter a stall with me and have a peek? Sure, why not? We're both women," sarcastically. I like to think the silence that followed made her realize who was being a creep because she backed out immediately and said no. I finally did my business in the stall, and while I was washing my hands, she apologized, and I told her it was no big deal. But I have to apologize to the trans people out there who get treated like that when they're just minding their own business. Edit. Wow, I never realized this would blow up, and reading the comments, I wanted to believe in good faith she learned her lesson, but maybe you're all right that she wasn't sorry she harassed me, and more sorry she harassed the wrong person. One of the comments gave me a helpful tip on what to say next time. Thanks. Edit 2. Some people have clocked in which country I am, didn't know other countries don't use that term. So I actually don't know what country normally uses the term comfort room, because I'm assuming that's the term OP's referencing in the edit. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I've heard the term before. Gonna Break It commented, "God forbid she ever meets someone that had a double mastectomy." Our next story is, woman won't stop fishing for information at a traffic collision and is then traumatized by the information she was fishing for. I'm a police officer. A few years ago, I was stationed on the perimeter of a fatal traffic collision. Essentially, what happened was a dude was driving recklessly in a stolen vehicle, ended up going off the road, unintentionally, and rolled it several times, was ejected, no seatbelt, and passed on. Car was upside down in a field adjacent to the road, and the body was lying in the field about 200 feet away, covered by a yellow tarp while we waited for the medical examiner to arrive. We closed the roadway near the field and had it blocked for traffic in both directions. Naturally, people had to be turned around and rerouted and detoured. Many were annoyed, but most people saw the condition of the vehicle and the number of police cars and went on with their day. One woman in particular just would not move along. Rubberneckers are common, and it's normal for people to try to fish for information, but this woman was relentless, and after several minutes of politely deflecting her questions, she said, "Well, thank God everyone was okay." I just stared at her for a second and replied, "They weren't okay." She looked at me and was like, "What? They weren't?" While once again looking around me trying to see into the field. I said, "No, actually, they died." Right about then, she noticed the yellow tarp and put two and two together. She gasped, covered her mouth in shock, began tearing up and breathing quickly, before finally going back to her vehicle where she had a mini meltdown and then left after taking like 15 minutes to calm down. If she had just turned around and went on her way, she never would have known the difference, but she just had to know. You know, to be honest, when I started hearing how this story was forming, I thought OP was going to be overly honest with this woman about the graphic details. You know, head was like a watermelon kind of thing. I don't know what this woman was fishing for if the mere fact of what was revealed to her was enough to make her have a 15-minute mini meltdown right there in traffic. Minflick commented, "Was the yellow tarp not visible? I've seen one at accident scenes a time or two, usually on my commute home. Traffic backup, lots of cops and highway patrol, ambulance or morgue van, and a yellow tarp or two. If they're hiding something, you know it's a mess and somebody died. They are the only group I've seen use that color." Our next story is, "No, I can't have kids. Just found the subreddit and thought my experiences this past year fit. I got a hysterectomy last August due to severe endometriosis and I haven't had kids. I still have my ovaries, but regardless, I've already struggled with doctors telling me how many kids I should have and when for years before my surgery. People are very opinionated about my choice to have the surgery, and I've lost friends over it. Now, whenever my husband and I meet new people or we're out in public and people are being nosy or rude about why I'm not currently pregnant or striving to have kids, we've been married 4 years and I look very young for my age, our reply usually goes something like this. "Well, we can't have kids. I don't have a uterus. Not that it's any of your business when we have kids, but thank you for reminding us of my chronic illness that prevents me from living a normal life." Edit, I want to say I'm blown away from all the support and thank you. It's the stories and experiences shared by others that I knew what endometriosis was before my doctors could even attempt to diagnose me. I was able to get help after 8 years, and I'm sure it would have been so much longer if I didn't know what endometriosis already was. The world feels a little bit bigger today and a little less lonely, so thank you. Once again, I don't know, maybe it is a harmless question and I'm overthinking it, but I myself am a fairly private person. I hate the idea that I have to explain myself as to why I don't have kids. Put me on the spot as if I have to have a reason at all. Beautifly Wings commented, "My friend had her uterus taken out because of cancer. She made shirts that said, 'Cuterus without my uterus.' I love that shirt." Our next story is, "Catcall me? I'll make you wish you were never born." If there's one thing I know, it is that self-care is care, full stop. My weekly self-care is a manicure and polish change, scheduled lovingly and regularly by my partner. 3 weeks ago was one such appointment, and I had just walked out of the salon to my car when a poor excuse for a human male offered an "ooh, honey" in the most lecherous tone possible. I am 33, been ogled and catcalled since I was about 14. This is nothing new. However, whether due to the area I live or the fact that it's 2025 and this behavior has literally never been acceptable, I genuinely have not been catcalled to my memory for at least a year to 18 months. So when I turned to look at the person who'd unknowingly begun his own destruction, it was with a look of pure, unmitigated disgust. I said, Is that how your mother raised you? You should be ashamed of yourself." He didn't expect me to talk back. He thought I would put my head down, ashamed of existing. My new nailed joy stolen when it had so recently been full and loud. Instead, he looked down, mumbling an "I apologize" like an ill-behaved child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. The immediate regret was palpable. I could practically smell it in the air. But no, I'm not done. I went on, "Do you? Because it seems to me had I not called you out, you'd have been happy to sit here gleefully chuckling. You know what you should do? Call the most important woman in your life and apologize to her for your behavior. In addition, go ahead and find the tree supplying your oxygen and apologize to it as well. Freak you." His windows were up before I'd shut my own door. Bet he'll rub his 2 brain cells together before he tries that again. I absolutely love OP standing up for themselves here. My only thought is, maybe they may think about it before they ever try it again, or maybe they'll just look for an even more unsuspecting looking person. Just the next woman that they want to underestimate. Nadamir commented, "I used to have a side gig teaching coding to teenagers. One of them catcalled a fellow teacher and then made a face at me like I, a male, would agree with him. After making him apologize to the teacher, I did make him call and apologize to his mother, on speaker, in my office. And then, 5 weeks later, because he was a horrible student in addition to a horrible person, I failed him. Good times." Our next story is, "Oh, you're into necrophilia?" So when I was 7, my mom died from cancer. Of course, not everyone in school knew this. I usually gave the courtesy of not knowing before letting loose. I was never the kind of kid to get ticked at your mom jokes because I know they were usually in good fun and didn't actually mean anything, usually turning into a dead mom joke with my response. Example, "Yo mama's so fat she got arrested for carrying 50 pounds of crack." Me replying, "Only thing fat about my mama is the jar she's in." This usually got a few shocked faces before everyone would laugh, realizing I wasn't getting ticked about someone talking about my dead mom. After the initial shock of the first few jokes, everyone got into it and it became its own thing, finding new mom jokes to say to me to see what I would say next. There was this one boy who I'll call DD. No one really liked DD. He was very entitled and rude, and on top of that, his father had the same reputation, so no one really liked the family. It was basically a family of Karens. He was always causing problems with other kids and usually was the antagonist when a fight broke out. He would tell on someone to get them in trouble after doing the same thing, etc. He transferred to the school a few years after my mom's death, so he had no idea. He also didn't spend enough time with my friend group to realize that the your mom jokes they were making were dead mom jokes. This specific incident took place in like 5th or 6th grade. Dee was teeing everyone off that day, just antagonizing everyone looking for a reaction, if I had to take a guess. Eventually, I got into the mix of insults when he turns to me and says something along the lines of, "I freaked your mom so good last night she was screaming my name all night." All my classmates knew my mom was dead and knew what was coming next. They all got quiet and looked at me. I looked at him with fake surprise and say, "Oh, you're into necrophilia then? What's it like freaking ashes?" "I don't think that would feel very good, but if that's what you like." His face got so red as he realized his freak up of talking about someone's past mom. He started backtracking, trying to say he meant my grandma, but everyone knew my family situation and that the person I called mom was actually grandma, and pointed out that she is my grandma and is passed on, and he was still freaking a dead body. They started calling him a necrophiliac, saying he's horrible for saying such things about someone's dead mom, even though everyone would say similar things, but it was in good fun, not trying to be a butt like Dee, and gave him a new nickname. It was Dusty D for a few days before his family threw a crap fit about bullying and teachers had to intervene. We still called him Dusty D, just in private where we wouldn't get in trouble and he couldn't tell on us. To be fair, Dusty D is a great nickname, almost to the point where I feel like if the teachers heard it, they might have thought to themselves, that is actually kind of funny. Still step in, but still step in, put a stop to it, you gotta do the teacher thing, but still, they probably laughed a little bit about it. Other thumbs commented, "Reminds me of an ex of mine whose mother had been dead for years." A friend messing around with him asked, "You kiss your mother with that mouth?" Not without a shovel, my ex answered back. Half of the room was silent, not knowing if they should be appalled, and the other half was cracking up laughing at their friend. The one who asked was cussing him out. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy traumatizing revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.